Hello everyone! In this video I will be discussing experimentalism in music and extended techniques in percussion. Now you might be wondering, those are some fancy terms. What exactly does experimentalism and extended techniques mean? Experimentalism is a practice that emerged in the 20th century, where composers started to make music that deviated from the way American society expected music to be. These musical norms were based on European musical precedents that had been set up until this point. These precedents included nice singable melodies that the audience could easily follow. Composers like John Cage and Charles Ives in the 20th century started to make music that differed from the way music should be and made music that reflected their own style, paving the way for musical boundaries to be stretched for centuries to come. One of the ways that these composers achieved experimentalism was through extended techniques. Extended techniques is when you play an instrument in a way that it's not normally played. The extended techniques that I will be discussing are extended techniques in percussion. So let's take a trip to the band room to talk about what exactly is percussion and what main instruments are in the percussion family. Hello, and welcome to the band room. Let's talk percussion. Percussion is defined by any instrument that can be struck or hit. Going off that definition, essentially anything can be percussion. And you'd be right. That concept is called unconventional percussion. And it will become important later on in the video, so hold on to that. Typically, when musicians are referring to percussion, they're referring to classical percussion. Classical percussion are percussion instruments that are typically played in an orchestral or band setting. The main instruments of classical percussion include snare drum, which is the drum in front of me, played by two drumsticks. Percussion keyboards, like the vibraphone behind me, played by yarn mallets, like the one I'm holding. And lastly, classical percussion includes timpani, which are the big drums behind me, which you manipulate the pitch or musical sound of by hitting it with a felt mallet and controlling it with a pedal attached to the drum that tightens or loosens the drum head, so you can get one pitch or another by pressing the pedal. In this video, I'll be covering extended techniques on timpani and on the vibraphone. Hello. The first percussive extended technique that I'll be showing you is cymbal on the timpani head. The way to perform this technique is to place the cymbal upside down in the center of the timpani head. And while you roll on the cymbal with your felt mallets, you're manipulating the pitch using the pedal attached to the timpani. One musical example of this technique being used can be found in 1,000 Impulses, One Voice by Joseph Pastor. I will be playing measures 31 to 32 in this piece to demonstrate this extended technique. Composers use this extended technique to create a feeling of suspense and an ominous atmosphere in their piece, or to transition from a lighter mood that they may have established earlier on in their work to a darker one. Another percussive extended technique that utilizes this same mood is bowed vibraphone, which I'll be showing you next. Bowed vibraphone is achieved by first having a bow, typically used to play string instruments, facing this direction with the bottom side up. You're going to take this position and press it into the edge of the vibraphone key, moving downward while the vibraphone pedal is pressed so the note can resonate. A musical example of this technique being used can be found in Asleep for Percussion Duo by Catherine Rawlings. I will be playing measure 1 of this piece. Composers use this technique to convey suspense, as we heard earlier, but also to create a sense of whimsy and otherworldness. So if you have a piece that's fantastical or based on mythology, you might want to use bowed vibraphone to create that sense of the imagination. Now, we'll go into the concluding part of this video to talk about unconventional percussion and the significance of these topics. Remember when I mentioned unconventional percussion? Now that we've covered extended techniques in classical percussion, unconventional percussion can be understood a little bit better. Unconventional percussion is defined as instruments that are struck but don't fall into the classical percussion category. This can include everyday items like pots or pans, trash cans, or even clapping your own hands. Because unconventional percussion is so broad and differs from musical norms of using classical percussion, it becomes a perfect example of experimentalism. So what have we learned? Experimentalism and extended techniques allow musicians to be creative and to make music that follows their own rules, that differs from the rules set before them. And because percussion has a variety of instruments that can be played in multiple different ways, it becomes a perfect means to exercise these concepts. So now you know. Enjoy your musical adventures.